What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Happy Monday and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Crypto. This is episode 26 and we have a lot to talk about. Last week, we kind of didn't do an episode. I'll get into a little bit of that. But first, let's welcome our co-host for today and every day that we do this, the BTC Queen. How you doing today, Queen?
Hey, doing well, doing well. Can't complain. It's a beautiful day here in Medellin, Colombia. I took a trip this week, so got a good view of the mountains. It's a beautiful
Nice.
city overall, so it's really nice here actually. There's actually a bustling crypto community.
Nice.
There's this place called the Hash House, and they have this thing on the wall, and it says crypto the real crypto valley is in Medellin, and I'm like, that's so funny. So it's actually really cute. There's a lot of people who are interested in impacting the world with cryptocurrency, and sustainability is a big thing here, so it's actually pretty cool.
Nice. That's amazing. Are you practicing your Spanish, your crypto Spanish over there?
Bueno, most people ask me if I'm Colombian. Like, they're like, "Oh, are you from here?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm Dominican." And yeah, 'cause I speak. I mean, we did our Spanish show.
Right.
We speak Spanish like relatively well. I think just sometimes the
That's why I asked.
conversion on the words specifically is like, wait a second. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. Conversational Spanish is not that hard. It's funny. There's a lot of expats here. There's a lot of gringos, is
Right.
what they like to call it. Even though a lot of Colombians are light, of course, because there's a lot of European influence here. But there's Spanish schools everywhere. There's like hostels and co-working, and it's quite funny. So it's very modern. It's a very like popular city for people to come and live. And it's like it's honestly it's beautiful. Like it's definitely received one of the top cities in my book. Miami is home, but at the same time,
Hmm.
it's not this. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's why I was asking though, because that's we did the Spanish show together last year, which was pretty fun, but it was a eye-opening experience, I think, for the both of us
Yeah.
when we tried to like explain crypto in Spanish and use those technical terms and all that. Like
Yeah.
it was like learning another language for me because I literally had no idea. I had never used probably a lot of those terms before, those technical terms. So I think it was a very eye-opening for both of us. So I was asking if you're using some of that, those skills that you
I have
acquired.
been using some of that lingo,
Nice, that's
and
awesome.
people understand very well. So
Right,
it's good.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So if you guys don't know, last week I was out of town and I made a big mistake. Unlike the BTC Queen, who was, as you guys can see, very well prepared, I packed up my laptop last week because I was planning to be able to work while I was away, and I packed it up. I put it on the couch, and as I was rushing, I walked out the door, left the laptop packed on the couch. I left it with my phone charger. My phone charger was in there. My watch charger was in there. My cologne was in there. Like it was multiple things. It wasn't just my laptop, but everything that I put on the couch, I basically left. So because of that, yeah, we weren't able to do a show last week. So I definitely apologize, and I really wanted to because the week before is when we had that massive, massive drop in Bitcoin where it dropped 17% in a matter of an hour. It did.
Yeah.
It has retraced a bit, and we'll get a little bit more into it later on. But right now, looking at the price of Bitcoin, currently sitting at $26,150. Let's see if maybe while we're live here with the show, we can help pump up that price a little bit. So in today's show, we're going to be covering a lot of different things, including the news with the BTC Queen, of course, a market analysis with myself, and we're just gonna kind of take an overall look at Bitcoin, see what's been going on in the markets overall in the last 7 days, and kind of catching up with that. So let's go ahead and dive right in. As I switch my monitor here. Hold on, I'm a little rusty, as you guys can see. There we go. So as I switch my monitor over, currently looking at the weekly time frame here, and here you can see the massive move down on not last week, the week before. So 2 weeks ago, we had the massive move to the downside, which broke the big trend line that we were following since all the way back in November. So we'll talk a little bit more about that during the market analysis, but you can see exactly here what played out, what occurred here. So let's take a look at the rest of the market and see how that's been going, how it's been affected as well. As you can see here, over the last 7 days, most things over the last week have been flat for the most part. You'll see a couple things up, but I don't think there's anything crazy here, at least from the top 25 standpoint. Let's go ahead and look at the top winners and losers, the top gainers and losers from the past week. So the biggest gainer is Bitcoin here, up 19% over the last 7 days. Coin is up 11%. DYDX up 10%. Sui up 6.3%, and Near Protocol up 5.8%. And then on the biggest losers, we have Bybit down 16.9%. So there's been some drama in Bybit. I feel like there's always drama in Bybit, but it's been some drama in Bybit.
I heard that one of the original holders that invested in the project cashed out like 54x or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I heard quite a bit there, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, there's been some crazy drama that I saw on Twitter, regarding Bybit. So I think that's for the most part why it's down here, 17% over the last week. We also have Caspa down 16.2%. Thorchain down 12.7%, and KuCoin down 9.4%. Looks like prices dropping on KuCoin. I don't know if I think you know about it, that they're going to be restricting the users now. You're going to have to basically, reveal who you are. You can't just be anonymous anymore. So
I think they started doing that in January, January 27th, if I'm not mistaken. That was like the last time you could do transactions without having KYC on file.
Yeah, so
I said January, I meant July.
Yeah,
so this was about a month ago.
I think there's some sort of deadline, because I keep getting emails from them saying that I need to KYC by the 31st of this month. So I know I've seen.
So they extended it seems.
So I don't know if it was for like level 1, or maybe there's another level of KYC. I'm not sure. I haven't, because I've been so busy. I haven't really read their emails, but I remember looking, just kind of skimming it over. Anytime I get an email from an exchange, I'm like, what's going on? So just kind of skimming it over, and it's saying, by the 31st I had to, I don't know what. So I mean, like I told you before, I have documents as a resident from a different place, the digital document, the digital passport. So I'll be able to KYC using that. But yeah, I gotta look a little bit more into it this week to see exactly what it is that's going on there. So
so it looks like, real quick, because on July 15th is when they had released the policy originally, saying that it was like mandatory for KYC. It may have been like for new users, anybody who started signing up as of July 15th, but now it seems that effective on the 31st, they have their enhancements to do identity verification procedures. That seems like maybe it's for the old users as well. So yeah, that's what it seems. That's what it seems. So it looks like if you had tried to sign up for KuCoin as of the 15th, you were subject to KYC, and if you're a previous user as of the 31st of this month, they will be required to submit identification and face verification. So they have a face verification thing now, kind of like Binance, where you take a picture and you do the thing with a date. That's what it seems like it is. So on top of sending your information, like your passport or whatever, you also have to send face verification.
Gotcha. Okay, that is definitely good to know. I will definitely have to be doing that if I decide to continue using KuCoin, but I hate KYCing, so we'll see what happens there. So yeah, so let's continue looking here at what else we have. So let's move on to the economic calendar. And on the economic calendar this week, there's nothing that I would call crazy that could break the markets. The biggest things here, we have the JOLTS, the job opening report tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be too much. It's going to make too much of a difference as far as movement in the market. We have the core PCE. Again, I don't think, unless it's something crazy, I don't think this will bring too much volatility into the market or anything insane. And then on Friday we have the unemployment rates and non-farm payrolls. So again, none of these events are going to bring huge volatility into the market. Now the one event that it will be in 2 weeks, September 13th. So that's when we get our next really big event on the economic calendar, which is of course the inflation rate. What is going on with the inflation rate, and then because that of course is going to directly affect September 20th when we get the Fed interest rate decision on that Wednesday. So September is definitely going to be an important month for us coming up here, and we only have 4 days left in August. So yeah, we gotta be watching what happens starting with the inflation reports, because that's going to probably dictate what might happen then with the Fed interest rates. Right now, if we look at the target rate probabilities, the market is expecting 80% chance of interest rates staying still and being paused for September. But that could change depending on that inflation report. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on. Now that won't be for another 2 weeks. So we just gotta kind of wait and see what happens there during that time. So let's go ahead now and jump into the news with the BTC Queen.
Awesome. All right. So there's quite a bit of news that we missed last week because we didn't do our show, including, like Jay said, the 17% drop in Bitcoin. There wasn't too much crazy stuff going on except for the market dumping, things like Elon Musk supposedly selling off a bunch of shares, and reasons as to why these things could have happened. Now, in recent news, which is I think one of the more important things. So we've seen pretty much what's happened with Tornado Cash and things that have led up to it. There has been another co-founder arrested, which is now released on bail. Roman Storm has been arrested on the 23rd of August and was released on the 27th. The government is saying like, hey, you were helping launder money. So the DOJ is on him for reportedly laundering or helping launder over $1 billion in illicit funds. Now, the interesting thing to note here is that the two main, I guess, developers that were gone after, which was, now Storm. And before that, we saw in the Netherlands, his colleague was arrested. There's only been two developers that have been pinpointed, but we're talking about an entire team of devs here, which is like wildly unfair what's happening and how they're getting pinned all the blame. Now, of course, you start with the people who have the idea, but this really brings into question like, are developers responsible for making tech? Is this their fault? Um, it's quite interesting. I was like thinking about these things whenever we would see like Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey in court, and you see them on the DOJ, and they're like, "Hey, your social media platform, like somebody can't just kill themselves on there and live stream it." And it's crazy how these guys they try to implement artificial intelligence for the most part to try and catch some things, keywords, blah blah blah, because there's millions of users on these platforms, and it's like kind of insane. And that's basically the same things that you apply to like these basically decentralized platforms. It's just absolutely wild. So I'm really interested to see what kind of like comes from these cases, what gets deemed as the overall, I guess, verdict when it comes to developers and their ability to put stuff out there without being scrutinized. Or will they be scrutinized? And will they have to not build cool things anymore? Yeah, so really interested to see what happens there, because it's quite the scene what's happened so far. In
Yeah,
other
definitely.
news, there is going to be a new crypto tax filing in the United States. Yay, of course. It is called Form 1099-DA. So the idea for this form is for individuals who are reporting on taxes to make sure that they are in fact reporting the correct information, and that they are not avoiding any tax reportation. So basically, we saw that in the past, if you had cashed out or moved around $10,000 on a crypto platform exchange, um, that information was reported to the IRS. Well, now, for the most part, any new information on users and on sales and exchange will be reported. Doesn't matter how much it is, it seems. So this is something that goes back to 2001. There was a Infrastructure Investments and Job Act, which was basically expanded to include this new ruling that would subject digital assets to reporting the same information as stockbrokers do for stocks and bonds. So this is pretty much same things that are applied to the stock market now bleeding into crypto and blockchain technology. So I mean that's pretty much it for the most part. Supposedly this will help them generate, I think, around $1 billion in revenue. Um, Now this rule and thing goes in effect for 2025, for the 2026 filing season. So it's it's I think it's being pushed right now. I don't think it was like quite passed, but the idea is to implement it moving forward. Which I mean, it seems okay. It seems like it will give sufficient time for companies that are doing these things to like actually get their things together, because I'm sure there's going to be different platforms and things that need to be implemented to like actually like push this forward. But yeah, supposedly it will also help people uh not have to do complicated computations when coming up what's owed for taxes, supposedly. So it seems a little broader than just like, hey, make sure you pay us. It seems that they're going to make exchanges implement certain programs and like things in the back end to keep track of basically like the buys and sells properly without having to look at everything on a transaction per transaction basis. So that's happening. Any
That is
thoughts on that, Shay?
that is definitely it's getting wild. I'm interested to see how they're able to keep up with it, if they can barely keep up with everybody that doesn't disclose their taxes, outside of crypto, right? Just working. People are just working regular jobs and not disclosing taxes. All these people getting paid under the table, not disclosing anything. So I mean,
Right.
um,
Yeah, we'll see what happens there.
mhm,
Definitely interesting. I mean, for the most part, because this stuff is in fact done on centralized platforms, it is much easier to pinpoint these people because it's
right.
already like, you got to do KYC. It's a centralized platform, etc. Now, I think I think the work around this, and I've had I've had friends who have told me this, which is, I think is crazy. And I would never do this personally, but I know people who intentionally put their private information like social security numbers and all this kind of stuff on the internet for it to be exploited and used so
Wow.
that when they do sell off their crypto, that wasn't me. I don't know who that was. I don't know who's using my information. There's a bunch of people using my information. That wasn't me.
That's
And
crazy.
it's insane, right? It's like how do you it's just like you have like the worst credit ever because I mean there's just people trying to commit credit card fraud on you like left and right.
Right.
Like it's like you can't even buy a house to like subjugate you to those standards, but of course if you're just operating in like let's say cash all the time, then I mean these are things that, I don't know, they start to get questionable because if you just have a bunch of cash, or if you're buying things in like Bitcoin, like you still have to, put certain information down when you're buying a house. So I feel like, activity like this would be caught up eventually too, anyways, because it's just not going to add up over time. It just
Right.
doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, I thought that was insane. I heard, overheard a conversation one day, and I heard someone saying that. I'm like, are you nuts? Because
Yeah,
it doesn't make
that
any sense.
is. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
about
it's
that. I
wild,
definitely, I
wild.
definitely would not do that.
No, don't do that. Nobody do that. This is not financial advice, for the love of God. Don't do that.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, because it's like you can't function as like an individual, like
Right.
the world pretty much revolves around a credit score, and if
Hmm.
you don't have one and you don't claim anything ever, and it's just like someone's gonna launch an investigation into you eventually, and like you're gonna end up going to jail.
For sure.
Those are my thoughts. But yeah. Anywho, don't do that, guys. So moving on to BlackRock, which has been deemed as a wolf in sheep's clothing for the most part in the industry. Most people have been reminding individuals within the crypto industry, this BlackRock CEO is coming in and he's saying all this nice stuff, but remember, he is not one of us. So their latest stunt, BlackRock is a major shareholder in 4 out of the 5 largest Bitcoin mining companies, which would include Riot Blockchain, Marathon Holdings, Cipher Mining, and TerraWolf. Which, hey, I'm very bullish for that because these market caps are actually like quite small for what they could be, in the future. All these mining companies have under a $2 billion worth of holdings, which is really, really low considering that the stock market is a multi-trillion-dollar market. And now these big players are getting a piece of the pie on the stock and bonds side. So, again, these are major Mongols who are very strategic in investing.
Hmm.
So please do watch out. And I agree with a lot of the people's, outlook on saying, hey, these people are not our friends. Like, yes, it's great that they're looking into, bringing in new money, bringing in new clientele. That's great. But at the same time, please do remember these people are not our friends. And
Definitely.
I say that wholeheartedly because we've seen so many con artists within our industry. So many have come in and out and have like just like it doesn't make any sense. Everyone was super happy when Gary Gensler was coming in because he was an MIT
Hmm.
professor and he was talking about blockchain to his class. Malarkey,
Yep.
okay,
I
like
remember those days.
it do like please be cautious about who we evangelize within the industry because it's not great when things go wrong and hit the fan. So just please be mindful of this. Again, welcome BlackRock. Thanks for pumping our bags, but we'll see. So
Yep.
the newest lawsuit by the SEC, which is kind of funny. So the SEC is suing a company for selling NFTs, claiming that they can be classified as a security.
There we go.
Um, I never thought I'd see the day. But guys, man, this is why verbiage is so important. And this is why lawyers have degrees because what you think something means doesn't actually mean what it means. Like laws are very specific and manipulative in the way that they use a lot of this verbiage. So it's very, 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 very important to be careful with what you say. And for the most part, we've seen that if you say anything like promising gains or return or insinuating profit, these things are extremely harmful to a project and are grounds and legal cause for you to be sued. So in this case, there was a entity called Impact Theory who is supposedly violating the securities laws because they are selling NFTs without proper registration, and they don't have exemption by the SEC or whatever to sell these NFTs. So they raised about $30 million, and these NFTs were pretty much like founders' keys, as they said. This was back in 2021. And basically, these NFTs were going to provide exclusive content and benefits from Impact Theory. They were claiming that they were going to be the next Disney, yada, yada, yada. So pretty much the SEC is saying that they were promising investors that they will profit from their purchase if the company is successful. You can't say that, like you can't promise people gains. And that, I think that is very, very, very clear. Now, I'm sure, I don't know who Impact Theory is, but I'm sure that this was, some company, which they're out of Los Angeles, some newbies who said, oh, we gotta, come in and we're gonna do whatever. And they were just nonchalantly releasing willy-nilly. If they got a lawyer to look at this, then I mean they gotta get their money back because it's just insanity. Um, yeah, you just can't do that, guys. It's very, very clear whoever came in and did this, they were a bunch of crypto noobs. Because I mean, I feel like people who know have been here long enough just to not entertain that stuff. So friendly advice, not financial advice. Do not launch anything and say that your investors will profit without it being a registered security,
Yep.
because we're not going to do that. It's funny. That's like I feel like I haven't seen any. I guess Young Labs was getting sued, but not necessarily for the sale of NFTs, more for like I guess price inflation or manipulating price. So I haven't seen a lot of NFTs companies being accused. So this was a pretty unique case.
Yes, that's
So
the first one I see like that. That's crazy.
yeah, no, I haven't. No, I was like, all right, this is cool. So let's move on to not so great news. But you had fair warning. So on August 23rd, Balancer, the DeFi platform, had informed its users to withdraw money from a specific pool because there was vulnerabilities and there may be an exploit. So a couple days later, aka last night or yesterday, depending on where you are in the world, um, nearly $1 million were extracted from these places that they say, hey, there's a vulnerability. So unfortunately, there was about $1 million lost. I don't know if they can back trace it or figure it out for the most part. But it is kind of crazy that even if your I guess exchange DeFi pool provider tells you, hey, remove your money, people will still just keep their money there. Now, to be fair, maybe these people didn't know or they didn't hear about it. Maybe they didn't see the email, yada, yada, yada. Um, this is a very good example that goes to show that whenever you have your money invested anywhere, it doesn't matter where, you need to pay attention. You can't just leave it there. You can't just forget about it. You can't just be like, oh, whatever. You can't do that because you are at much higher risk of losing it. If your money is not in a cold storage wallet, you need to be on top of it. This is why people have asset managers, wealth fund managers, people who are actively watching their money, because if you're not going to do it, somebody does. And that is the bare minimum you can do when doing this kind of stuff. So sorry for those who lost their money, but you should have been paying attention. Um, so this one's real quick. FTX has removed, I guess, their claims portal. Apparently, there was a breach by one of their compliance slash people who check their things called Kroll. Um, it's really funny how there's always like a everyone wants to, the internet is very unsafe. And like the more I see these things like hacks and breaches and I mean, companies from FTX all the way down to like Excedrin and Expedia and all these others, like it's everything is just super hackable. Banks even get hacked all the time. It's actually just kind of wild. It's kind of wild. I find these things funny, but
Yep.
if you had access to that portal, you are no longer able to use it. And last but not least, major crypto players are sending it. AKA JP Morgan is calling a bearish stock market. And they're saying that the Bitcoin dips will not last very long, that there is a very bullish market ahead.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I was like, all right, that's different. I mean, despite the fact that JP Morgan has their own blockchain and their own, token that's launched on their private chain, they've always been very bearish when it comes to reporting things about the market. And now they're trying to pump it, which is kind of funny. And makes me wonder if it's
I
for their own
wonder
benefits or if
why.
they're trying to bring in customers or if they're trying to, I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, thought it was quite funny. But yeah, JP Morgan is trying to pump the market along with BlackRock and everyone else, it seems.
Yep.
So,
Well, I have some somewhat of breaking. I don't know how breaking it is, but it's breaking to me. Some breaking news. So I just saw this. Just in, YouTuber BitBoy Ben Armstrong
yeah.
has been fired from his company BitBoy Crypto, citing financial damage and substance abuse. What?
Yeah. I've heard about this. Bitboy actually used to be a junkie like a long time ago.
Right.
Last time I saw him, it might be because of all the stuff he was facing with court and all this kind of stuff. He looked a little neurotic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Overall, he's a pretty like nice guy. He has a family, etc. But when people are under pressure, that can cause them to crack.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if that in fact happened. If he was under a lot of pressure and it caused him to go under, which is actually kind of sad.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the hard part about being a mainstream influencer, being somebody who is online all the time, being somebody who is always adhering to their fans. It's really tough, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of like backed off from influencing. One, because I was kind of weirded out by people like saying Bitcoin Queen in public in the middle of like a shopping plaza. I was like, whoa. And then two, just the scrutiny that people are put under, the
Mm-hmm.
pressure. It can be a lot, and you really need to be prepared for those things and
Mm-hmm.
have the ability to kind of like disconnect from I guess what's real and what's not.
Right.
And a lot of people, they take the internet very seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and yes, there's other people on the side of those keyboards and other people on the side of the things that are being said, but at the same time, you can't let those things affect your personal life. um yeah, I'm not surprised. And honestly, I saw two things. I saw that he left and I saw that he was fired. um it doesn't matter which one's right. What I do think is that he stepped away, and I hope that he continues to have some distance while kind of, I guess, going through whatever he's going through, in efforts to find some sanity out of
Right.
all this.
Yeah, I saw. I'm trying to find it. What was that? That he had like a
There was yeah, there was this token
Ben
that was, I
now
don't
or
know if it's
something.
about this token, because I saw that there was this thing about controversy around a supposed token. So there was this Ben coin,
Yeah,
which
so
wasn't
I found it. I just
made.
found it here. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't made by BitBoy
Right.
or it wasn't made by Ben. It was made by another Ben.
Someone else, right.
And he was basically trying to buy out the token's market cap
Right.
for that Ben not to rug the entire thing and for it to fall back on Ben Armstrong.
Right.
Because it's something about them launching it together, I think was the deal. So like I don't know what's been the latest on that, but there might be a possibility that it's correlated to a rug pull or just misunderstanding around the token. So I would speculate that much.
Yeah, so there's another page called Join Bencoin, and he tweeted as a reply. He said, "This has been TJ Shed and Justin Williams have attempted a coup at my company. Just confirming what is going around. It's true. There has been a mutiny at BitBoy Crypto and Hit Network, but it won't work. They have no leverage. Until they can clone me, I have nothing to worry about." That's what he tweeted. So
TJ, oh
yeah, TJ and Justin.
TJ was one of the I guess he would be like his camera slash manager kind of guy. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I mean, they were all buddies, and for the most part, from what I know about Ben, because he is who he is, and usually people become prideful sometimes, and I don't know. Again, that pressure becomes a lot.
It's just crazy. The part I don't understand is how can he be kicked out of his own company? Like, was he not the majority?
Depending on how it's set up.
Right. Did he not have majority ownership of his own company? Like, that's
potentially, yeah.
That's kind of weird.
So like the thing is, like Hit Network, for example, so like BitBoy's his brand, which that in itself is a little strange, and like if you decided to monetize it and put equity behind it and all that, whatever. But Hit Network is a multi-conglomerate network with different influencers and stuff around cryptocurrency in general. So that one I can see, that one makes sense. The saying that Ben Armstrong has been kicked out of BitBoy, that's a little wonky.
Exactly. That doesn't make sense, right? Like, so they have control. They just have control of his Twitter, his YouTube, like all these things that he created himself. He built from scratch, from nothing. Like, that's very strange.
He's always had like people managing him though,
right?
For the longest. When I met him before, he was big. He had his little posse. Like, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's just been set up this way from the get-go.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's definitely some strange news, but yeah, that's something that could happen, I guess, if you don't have complete ownership of your everything that you're doing. So something to definitely to pay attention to if there is anyone out there trying to create a brand or anything like that. Make sure to always keep ownership, because I know they're saying things about the substance abuse, which could be true, but again, we don't know the story. That could easily be a way to turn the audience and his own audience basically against him, so his own community, right? So I don't know. I'm not gonna we're never gonna really know probably what the real story is there. So I just hope, if he is going through any issues like that, I just hope the best for him, that he gets it resolved. If not, I still hope the best for him, and hopefully that those things get settled. Yeah.
Oh, this is kind of breaking as well. Apparently, if you have a Coinbase account, your wallet may show up as 0. It's just a bug. They're working on it.
Okay. Yeah. There you go, guys. Breaking news while we're live, right? All right, guys. So so I think we're done with the news. Now we're going to jump into a market analysis. Now, however, before we jump into that, if you guys have any questions about anything that we've either covered today, anything crypto related, make sure to drop it in the comments if you're watching live right now, and we will go back after the market analysis. We'll read those questions and give you guys some feedback or some answers on that if we have answers for you. If you're not watching live, if you're watching this after the fact, or if you're listening on the podcast, no worries. You guys can still get your questions in. Every Sunday afternoon, I'm posting up on Instagram, bitcoin.daily, for you guys to send in your questions. So you guys can do it that way. And then when we do the live stream podcast, then we go back, take a look at it, and answer some of those. So no worries. You can, whether you're watching live or after the fact, you can still submit your questions. So let's go ahead and jump right into the market analysis here that we're excuse me, that we're doing today. So let's start off here on the weekly chart. As you guys know, we've spoken about this a couple times here, and we're gonna start here. But the main thing here, and if I swap over to this one here, is that this is one of the scenarios that we looked at here, which was a double top scenario. And I told you guys, if, as long as this scenario was valid, right, the double top target was around $23,000. And we went down during this last drop, depending what exchange you look at it at. We went down as low as almost exactly $24,000, just above it. But if you look at some other exchanges, I know that Bybit went down to $23,000, below $24,000, because there were so many liquidations and all that affected the price of Bitcoin. So depending where you're looking at it, this is a scenario that we spoke about a few weeks back. If you go back and look at those videos, those live streams, we did talk about this one. So that's why we always try to look at every different scenario from every standpoint. Even though we are overall bullish on crypto long term, it is good to be able to see all the different scenarios that's going on within the price chart, because you never know what could happen that could send the price on a downward spiral like this one. So if you don't know why exactly, what triggered this, there were two things that happened on the day that this happened, on 2 weeks ago, right? So the first thing was Evergrande. I don't know if it's pronounced Evergrande, Evergrande, whatever it is. Basically, the biggest real estate developer in China filed for bankruptcy. So that's the first thing, right? And this is not too much to do with crypto per se, but this is more for the overall economy, right? The macro economy. This was already affecting the market, right? So this was already putting some selling pressure on Bitcoin. And then what basically what was the last straw, right, was there was a report, an article from the Wall Street Journal saying that they looked into SpaceX's remember, SpaceX is a private company, is a privately owned company by Elon Musk. They said that they looked into SpaceX's financials, and that they saw that SpaceX sold over $300 million worth of Bitcoin. Now, this has not been confirmed, and it hasn't been denied. So we don't know what the truth is, and we probably won't really find out unless Elon Musk himself or someone from SpaceX comes out and confirm or denies the story. But this is what the story was, and basically what ended up triggering this massive drop to the bottom. So now I don't know what the idea behind selling after the fact, that if let's say if it was true that SpaceX did sell over $300 million in Bitcoin, what's the use of selling now that because that means that they already sold. What's the point of selling at this point, right? So I don't know, that's just kind of weird. It's always weird when there's a report that, X company sold this amount of money, then everybody's like, oh my God, if they sold, I should sell too, right? Like, it doesn't make sense, but that's pretty much what happened. There's a big push down, and then what happens when there's a big push down? There's basically a cascade effect for liquidation. So people that were in long positions got liquidated, and that sped up basically the sell pressure, and is what causes a massive meltdown of this. Basically dropped 17% in an hour before retracing back up a bit. So that's the main thing here that happened over the last 2 weeks, which caused this massive hit on Bitcoin's price. So currently we're sitting at $26,165, and we're closing out the month of August, right? So for the month of August, right now we're down 10.5%. So we're down 10.5% for the month. Last month in July, we were down 4%, right? So now we're entering September. And now with September, it's always been tricky for crypto and for Bitcoin. If we pull up historically what's happened during September's in the history of Bitcoin, let me pull it up here. Here it is. So let me just pull this chart up really quickly. This is September over here. It might be a little pixelated, but just focus more on the color than anything else. And you'll see that, if we're looking at Bitcoin's entire history since 2010 is when this chart started tracking it. September has always been pretty much a red month for Bitcoin. And if we look back over the last 6 years, it looks like it's been a red month for Bitcoin overall. So pretty much, we have to prepare for possibly some further downside, right? If we look at this chart here, you can see a Bitcoin monthly returns. Again, same thing. Over the last 6 years, we've seen September's been red for Bitcoin overall. And on average, Bitcoin's price moves down 5% during September. Now, there has been some months where there's been massive moves to the downside, like in 2011, it went down 37%. 2014, down 19%. So that kind of skews it off a little bit. I don't think we're seeing massive movements like that right now. But, just kind of to get an idea, last year we were down 3% in September, right? The year before that, in 2021, down 7%. In 2020, also 7%. So just kind of to get an idea, I think if we have a down month, it could be somewhere in that range where, we could potentially have, a 5% month. Like this month, remember, we're down 10%. Oh, it looks like I disconnected. Oh, it looks like we're back, I think.
Yeah, you had cut out for a little bit there.
Yeah, it looks like I got disconnected and then we came back. Sorry about that. But basically what I was saying here, if Bitcoin's price closed out right now, the month where we're currently sitting at, and we went down the average 5%, that'll put us around that $24,000 to $25,000 range for Bitcoin. So, I mean, it is possible because if there's a move down, usually what happens is similar to the one that we just saw, where there's a big move down and then it retraces back up, right? There's like that relief rally, which is basically what's happening right now, and then consolidation period. So are we gonna get another big move down? I don't know. I don't think so, but it always is a possibility, because if we're taking a look at the liquidity levels right now, there's massive liquidity levels to the downside as well, and they're sitting at that $23,000 range. So that's something else to keep in mind, because that down there is not only the double top target for this pattern, but there's also the majority of liquidity right now is to that downside. And as you guys know, market makers and price loves to go to where there's the most amount of liquidity, because if they're trying to fill their bags without moving the price too much, they're going to be looking at to get the best price by moving prices down towards the liquidity areas. So that's it's a big thing that we're going to need to be watching there to over the next couple of weeks and going into in September most of all. And that's probably going to be driven depending on what happens in the next few weeks with as far as news, any current events. Unfortunately, we cannot predict them. The other thing is going to be the economic calendar, what's going on, so the inflation rates and all those things. And then the final thing is Fed. They're going to be talking throughout the month leading up to the interest rate decision. Again, that could lead for a possible move to the downside if they do decide to raise interest rates again. So that's something that we need to really be paying attention to over the next few weeks here. So looking for what we could possibly see, as you guys can see, we lost the big trend line, and the only way to gain it back, we'd have to basically close above $29,000 at this point, which could happen, of course. But I'm thinking we're going to be consolidating here for a little bit. What I've been watching here, as far as to play, is in that $25,000 range. There's been a lot of support. So if you're looking to take a long, possibly in that 25K range, as close to $25,000 as possible, I would probably be starting orders around that 25.5K range. So 25,500, I'd probably open an order, a long order there. Then if we got closer to 25,000, I'd probably open a second one, and then I'd have my stop loss probably just below $25,000, around 25,750-ish or so, depending, what's going on with the price action overall. So that's probably a long, short-term day trade that I'd be looking to take. As you guys can see, when it's hit that 25,000 area, the price has been bought up, and once again here, been bought up. If not, and if we get a push to the upside, the reason I'm not looking for shorts right now is because we've pushed so far down that I don't want to take a short here after this massive move down, right? We could see some type of relief rally to the upside here. Then if there's a push to the upside to a resistance area, then I might be looking to, at that point, short. But right now, I don't think there's any good short opportunities currently where we're sitting at. This right here, this $26,000 area, that's a Fibonacci level. It was a previous support, could be playing as a resistance now here. So we'll have to watch that. Then that could lead to to a drop down to this level down here. So these are all things that we're watching. But right now for me, the only play really, if you're really, and this is not a high probability play either. You're going to be taking, that risk for, there's not a lot of upside right now unless we break above this 26,300 range that we've been kind of stuck under. So if you're buying at 25,500, you're pretty much aiming for a $500 to $800 move there to be taking profits at. So again, not a big move. So if you're taking any risk on this, probably very, very small risk here. I would more likely be using this time here. Anytime there's big moves like this, the best thing that I think that you can do is dollar cost average, so DCA. So I think that's probably the best thing to do with these massive, massive moves to the downside. I love at these times when everybody is afraid, everybody's screaming, this is the end, etc., etc. Anytime there's big news events that drives prices down, this is my favorite time to dollar cost average in to my positions, for my long-term bags, because eventually this is going to bounce back up, and then you're going to look back and be like, I wish I would have bought at that price. So again, this is not financial advice. This is just what I'm personally doing myself, because this is these are my favorite times to buy, is when there's a lot of fear coming into the market, when there's a lot of people selling, when there's a lot of that doom kind of sense within the markets. It is my favorite time to buy for sure for my long-term bags. Now, of course, I'm not putting huge lump sums in. I'm just dropping dollar cost averaging weekly at that point. So That's pretty much what I'm seeing in the markets right now, how I'm playing it, and what I'm gonna be doing this week. Of course, if you guys want, day by day what I'm doing, you guys can join the Discord. The link is in the description below. So now, let's go ahead and talk about. Let's do the Q&A, guys. So I asked you guys to send in some questions. I'm gonna take a look here at the comments to see if we got any questions, and I'm gonna look, of course, at Instagram where I posted for some questions as well. So let me pull that up really quickly. All right, so I pulled up Instagram. Let me take a look in the comments here to see if we have any questions. Let's see. All right, so someone called Forex Trading asked, do you have a Telegram group or channel? So I used to have a Telegram channel, but I moved it to Discord. So right now, I've been getting reports and messages and DMs saying that that there's a Telegram channel currently running under the Bitcoin Daily brand, and that is not my channel, guys. That is not me. So if you guys are in a channel where you're getting updates from someone called Bitcoin Daily on Telegram right now, it is not me. So I did get I did get a few people asking that brought that to my attention. So if you're in anything like that, it is not me. Let me see. Let's take a look at what else. What other questions? That's the question we had here on the YouTube comments. If anyone is watching live right now, feel free to drop another question in there. I'm gonna take a look now at Instagram. So someone asked, Rodrigo asked, why is Bitcoin following the stock market instead of being a different value reserve as it was intended? BTC Queen, you have any thoughts on that?
So guys, I think we need to remember, for the most part, in terms of like finance and like total like market cap value, Bitcoin is still relatively small, and everything follows each other in this sense. There has been several instances where, Bitcoin hasn't followed the stock market, even though technically like has, like, we talk about COVID, and we talk about, like what happened in 2020 when Bitcoin ran up and eventually hit that, $60,000 range. But there was also stocks like Zoom that went up very, very high. So because of the money being heavily concentrated in certain places, slash the money moving between the asset markets and markets like, Bitcoin, and, everything kind of revolving still around, banks. These things will correlate. And that's just how it's going to be until more money ends up in the Bitcoin market for a long term.
Yeah.
So that's just how it is. It is this way because it just is.
Yeah, and also remember that it is still considered in the basket of a very high risk asset, right? So the thing is, with high risk assets are very volatile, right? So the way that investors and institutional players, the way that they play the game is that when there looks like there's going to be downside, when things are looking very risky, they pull their money, their funds out of high risk assets. That could lead to and high risk assets is anything from things on the stock market like tech, right? Like Tesla, for example, and things like crypto and Bitcoin. So when they're as they pull out money from high risk assets, the prices tend to fall, and that's why then when things are looking good for high risk assets, they tend to put money back in it. So Bitcoin tends to also flow with the overall economy, because again, it is part of it's an economy, right? It's part of an economy, and because it's very volatile, it's a high risk asset. So because of that, when people put money in or out of high risk assets, it affects the price of Bitcoin as well. So hopefully that helped and that answered that question. Let's see. see what else here. I saw one that I wanted to say here. All right, here we go. We got from OHP guy. He says, "When do you think we'll go from consolidation to bull run?" What do you think?
One more time, what was it?
When do you think we will go from consolidation to bull run?
It's a good one. So definitely not before the halving. We still got some time before we see like major moves happening. So the halving as of right now is targeted to be April of 2024. There's going to be slight, price increases in the positive direction for the most part. That's usually what happens historically, followed by massive sell-offs and accumulation periods from these miners, and then that pretty much triggers things from there. So, and something interesting is happening. So did you see that they were? Did you see that COVID is picking up again, Jay?
Yep, I saw that.
So they are re-mandating, I think mass is what it is. And I honestly, I wouldn't know about this unless like my brother sent me this and somebody else told me, and I'm like, what is this? What is this nonsense? Why are we going back to this? So yeah, there seems to be, between that and the upcoming election season, there seems to be a notion of civil unrest coming soon, supposedly. Now, these are things that are, I guess, grounds for people to lose trust in the government currency and lean on alternative currencies, which is also something that can signal a run. So there's a few things in play here. I think between the years like mid to late 2024 into 2025, that's going to be when we're gonna see some stuff like really pop up. So yeah, that's my range for where I'm targeting.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same thing. I think we're just gonna probably continue consolidating. Maybe towards the end of the year, see a move up. Nothing crazy yet, but see some sort of move up back into the 30,000 range, potentially into past where we currently have been, that $31,000. Potentially up as high as, I think I had my resistance around between $35,000 to $38,000 was a big zone of interest, big point of interest. So I think between now, the end of the year, that is an area that we could potentially move up to. But for like to actually like break up and break out to the upside, I think that's gonna be next year, 2024, 2025. Going up to the halving and post halving, and that's historically what Bitcoin's done. So I think 2024, 2025, that's when you need to have your bags loaded by then, because if you decide to buy, if you're waiting for prices to go lower and they don't, and you're gonna be looking silly in a year from now. So I think it's a great time to DCA, personally, my personal opinion, because it's only a matter of time before things take off. And you already know, when Bitcoin takes off, it takes off. So I know a lot of you guys have been around long enough to know that, to see that. But if there's any newer viewers on here that are newer to the cryptocurrency space and Bitcoin, when that thing starts moving, it is going to move. So don't sit there and wait for a breakout to happen. I would say dollar cost average and just sit back and relax, enjoy the ride. Don't try to focus too much on trying to time the exact best price to buy Bitcoin, and focus on what's that saying? I'm trying to think of the saying. Timing the market versus time in the market. So I think that's definitely something to keep in mind. So we're gonna take a few more questions here from in the comments. We have J Money. He said he was asking about BitBoy. What's the hype behind? I saw he was going to Dubai. I'm not sure what all that was about. I did hear something about that he was going to move his company over to Dubai. He was moving to Dubai. Everything was going to Dubai. Obviously, there was already something going on with the brand at that point, is what it looks like, right?
He's going to Dubai.
Yeah, that I had read. Yeah,
I don't see his family just moving to Dubai.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that was one of the things he was tweeting. I remember a few weeks back. He was probably there was probably already things going on within the brand, is what I'm thinking, before he got removed or fired or whatever the case is. So we have 300 Rivers here. We're gonna take two more questions. One from 300 Rivers. I appreciate you tuning in. This guy is always tuned in here, and then the last one from J Money. So Rivers says, can you touch on the topic of white papers and how to read them? I get dizzy every time that I attempt to get through one. So from your experience, or do you have any tips or anything like that when diving into white papers? Have you done that a lot?
Whoa. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, that was weird.
It's all good. Did you hear what I said?
I heard something about white papers.
Yeah. So Rivers asked, can you touch on the topic of white papers and how to read them? I get dizzy every time that I attempt to get through one. So I was asking you, if you have any tips for how to dive into a white paper, because I know that can be overwhelming. There's so much words, right? So many things, so many details, so much weird language, I think, as well. And do you often read white papers or anything like that?
Yeah, so I try to go to the white paper if they have one, because white papers can be overwhelming and over-consuming. Now, in the world of ChatGPT, did you know you can just plug in a white paper into ChatGPT and tell it to dumb it down for you?
Yep.
There's very specific things that you should look for when it comes to white paper, and that would be token distribution. I guess roadmaps in terms of the technology and like what the technology is like looking to achieve and looking to pinpoint. Some people like to look at the team and see, if that team has any connections to whether it's government officials or previous experience at Google, stuff like that, because now that expands the network of possibilities for partnerships and different things in between when it comes to white papers. So those would probably be the things that I would focus on. And I would look for things that are kind of just like red flags in society today, like promising, profits and like stuff like that, because that is a likelihood for a company to, one, be a scam, or two, be subject to SEC scrutiny or whatever in the future, even if it's not within their jurisdiction, because we know that the SEC has no borders, is what we'll say.
Yep.
When it comes to these things, because apparently U.S. customers get into every asset everywhere. So those are probably the most important things that I would say you should look for when it comes to white papers, and reading them. Just initially, you can look at the white paper, but obviously try to find a white paper, try to identify the tokenomics, and try to identify things like the team, their affiliations, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, for sure. Pretty much the same answer, more or less. The first thing that I'm looking at when I'm looking into a project is what's the utility of the project? What's the purpose of the project? What space is it in? Is it an upcoming space, upcoming trend? Is it something that's kind of already been passed on? Is it at the end of it? Is it too late? What's its competitors look like? And again, what's its real world utility, right? So first, that all has to make sense. Then I'm looking, okay, so what's the team, right? Who's behind it? Who created it? Is the team anonymous? Is the team KYC'd, right? Is a team, what's their background? Like, why would they be a good team, right? So I'm looking, what their previous experience is. If they've worked on previous projects, how have those projects done? How, have they been successful? So those are a lot of the things I look at, I think, when I'm looking into a white paper. And then after that, I'm looking at, again, token distribution, and utility, right? How is a token being distributed, right? Was it a pre-sale? Was it a, back then it used to be, what were they called? I don't remember anymore. When they used to do the pre-sales. ICOs, there we go. So back then it was ICOs. Now they're doing like the fair launches, right? So you got to look at all those things, see how much is being distributed to the team, how much is distributed to its partners or Series A, Series B investors, Series C investors, and then what that token unlock schedule looks like, right? You want to know when are those token unlocks going to be available, because there might be a lot of selling when there's token unlocks. I'm looking at your camera right now, and you look like an angel with the light. You're so bright, it looks like the sky's just on. Yeah, so you definitely, there's a lot of things that you want to look at, and I think the main thing that I usually focus on is token utility, the team, and token distribution, and all of that. Like market cap as well is very important. Is it a token that has inflation or deflation? Those things can be very important as well, because if it's a token, and a lot of tokens work this way, where they have inflation, then the token is going to basically be unlimited. If it's unlimited, that means over the long term it's going to be going down. So we've seen that in a lot of projects. So that's why you got to be careful with all those things, and see how that all works out. And that's basically how I start when I'm looking into a white paper. I want to know those things first, and then from there on, then I'll start looking at the rest of the project. Depending on what it is going to have a lot of different things going on. So. And partnerships is another thing. If they have big partnerships or big backers, big investors back in the project, that's always been a telltale sign as well, of a potentially really, really good idea, a really good project, right? If they have like a team like Binance or Coinbase Ventures or A16Z, if they have one of these really, really big companies, and I did a video on this, that is made an investment in one of the investing rounds, that's usually also a good sign. So I want to look for those things, because these companies, these hedge funds, have successful track records as well. So these are all things that I kind of pay attention to when I'm looking at a new project. So hopefully we were able to answer your questions and give you a little bit more an idea of what to look for. I think the main thing you should do is just set up like a checklist type of thing to try to keep yourself organized. Set up a checklist of exactly what it is that you're looking for, and set it up like that, right? Like, okay, utility of the token. What's the utility? What's its real world use case? Does it make sense to you, right? So kind of take notes on that. Then the next thing, okay, token distribution. How was the distribution of the token? Then the team. Who's the team behind it? Then the next checkpoint, investors. Who's the investors behind it? And kind of go like that. And I think that will make it a little bit easier to break it down for yourself. And the other thing that she mentioned, ChatGPT. Man, I use ChatGPT. It is literally my personal assistant. I use it for everything. So I definitely recommend you to play around with it if you haven't done so yet. There's actually plugins as well for crypto now on ChatGPT. If you have the monthly one, there's the one you got to pay for though. But there's things like that as well. So the sky's the limit with ChatGPT for sure. Hopefully we're able to answer your question. I appreciate you tuning in. All right. The last thing, we're already over the hour time. So I want to just kind of rapid fire here. Try to give an answer in 1 minute or less. I know that we kind of tend to go on rants. So let's
Yeah,
try
we
to
do.
yeah. So let's J Money said, so Bitcoin is the one to follow, but since it's almost sold out and mined by BlackRock, isn't Ethereum the one to follow from now on, since things are being built on Ethereum and Bitcoin is simply gold sitting? Did you understand?
Who told you
So
that all the Bitcoin was mined, first of all? So no. Okay, so BlackRock invested into a lot of mining companies.
mhm.
But they themselves, I don't think, are mining Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is set to be like basically mined out in the year like
Mhm.
2146 or something like that. Like it's not anytime soon. Yes, there's a lot of Bitcoin that's mined on the market. However, not all of it is mined. Mining is still a very profitable industry. There's a lot of people who invest in mining. What you also have to realize is that miners also validate transactions. So transaction validation will continue to be something that people make profit off of. Every time there's a Bitcoin transaction, a miner pushes it through and it gets a reward. So no, I wouldn't say that, Ethereum is the one to follow. No, Bitcoin is still the dominant thing that pulls the market.
Yeah, for sure. I think what Ethereum is a more volatile. It's a more volatile coin investment overall. I agree that a lot of things are being built on Ethereum, but Bitcoin is still, I like to compare it to the stock market. Bitcoin is a S&P 500 versus Ethereum being like NASDAQ. NASDAQ is like more tech, right? S&P 500, they have like the bigger companies that are, they have a lot of banks and stuff like that. So it's more stable usually, right? While the NASDAQ is more volatile. So I think that's similar with Bitcoin. I think Ethereum, for the most part, will always just follow Bitcoin, and it's just going to be more volatile than Bitcoin, whether Bitcoin moves up or down. Ethereum, for the most part, is going to be following it exactly, with more volatile moves up or down. So as far as mining, like she said, there's still going to be Bitcoin for another 100 years plus, right? So I'm not worried about that. And the less Bitcoin there is, the higher the value is going to be, because the more scarce it is, right? So again, I'm trying to keep this answer as short as possible, but yeah, for the most part, like I say, build your foundation on Bitcoin, and then you can go Ethereum as well to give your portfolio a little bit more volatility. The last one, what is your close prediction for Bitcoin for the month of August? Any possibility of moving up before another push down? Do you think it is the right time to DCA more on Cardano?
DCA always is
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah, for sure. I agree. DCA, I DCA weekly regardless of price, but I especially love to DCA when there's a lot of moves to the downside. So I think it's a great time to DCA. For the rest of the month, I mean, there's only 4 days left. Without counting today, there's 3 days left in the month. There's a possibility that we get some sort of a relief rally, but I think it's more likely that we get consolidation in this range. So that's gonna wrap it up for us, guys. I thank you all for tuning in. I thank you guys, everyone who sent in questions as well, everyone that was participating in the chat. I see you, Rivers, J Money, Olale. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, Olale or Olalai or Lalaye. I don't know. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but I appreciate you all as well sending in the questions. We had some people from Instagram as well. Appreciate you guys. I think it was OHP Guy and Rodrigo were two of the questions that we answered from Instagram. Appreciate you all. We'll be live again tomorrow. I'm sorry, not tomorrow. Next week. At 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as long as there's nothing crazy. Actually, we might have to move next week's to Tuesday, because next Monday is actually my birthday. So we might have to move it to Tuesday. Thank you, appreciate it. So yeah,
Jake's turning 45.
yeah, 45. No, chill out. I'm not in my 40s. I'm in my 30s, guys. Chill. I'm in my mid 30s, and I still say that I'm 30 years old. Until I get to 40, I will always be 30 years old. So I don't count any of the numbers in between. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys next week. And yeah, peace and love.